also turn out to be true. Then we are also going to look at the difference of our 3,000 approximately.
Okay, all right, Bill. Thank you. Maybe formula. Finally, I'm not you. What is it? Okay.
If we could have that.
We could have that put up. Bill, thank you very much. We'll come back to you.
So let me just.
But that means, Bill, by the results you're sharing as provisional, though, it does mean that the NPP's agenda.
No, these are certified. No, these are certified.
Agenda of getting 47 out of 47 has hit a snag, correct?
Well, let me tell you that for the provisional result you also getting from Executive Shotuma say the NDC candidate has won. And if what we are also getting from the other places is anything to go by, then currently the NDC have 4 seats from the Ashanti region, and that is a big blow to the agenda 47.
Thank you, Bill. We'll come to you right back. William Evans Nkom is a man in the Ashanti region. Let's start off from Adansi Asuka. I'll go to Formula, bro. So Katie Hammond got in year 2000, and he got 10,306 votes at the time, 54.44%. She beat Theresa Mensah 7,230 at the time. Kwame Amo was there, but he didn't show so strongly. Naya Frimpong showed strongly also the PNC. They don't seem to show anymore these days. Peter Sophia as well. In 2004, Katie Hammond increased the votes that he had gotten in 2000, 15,000 now, and he had widened the gap and succeeded in taking out all the others. Maybe disadvantaged and discouraged them from contesting. Evans Amankwa of the NDC got 8,759, representing 36.33. Fast forward to 2008, and here you have Katie Hammond's vote reduces by some 2,000. The NDC gained that vote, added on to it, getting 9,219. Katie Hammond garnered 13,659, 55.70 and 37.59. But really, it didn't change anything for the NDC. 2012, Katie Hammond came back to his 15,000 that he had got in the previous election, and the NDC also increased from what they had, the 8,000 they had, to 14,000. Same candidate going with Katie Hammond, but Katie Hammond was successful. The NDC increased the margin widely in there. What was the story in 2016? In 2016, the Katie Hammond story was maintained. He increased by some 1,000 and a little over that. The NDC further dropped, same candidate. They have been at it for 3 elections and it's dropped. What is the story going to be like in 2020? That's all we're waiting for. And the NDC is asking for a recount.
Right.
Well, I don't know what you think.
Provisional figures, 19,519 as against the NDC's 10,560. But like you said, the NDC is challenging that because they are saying they got some 15,000 plus, and Katie Hammond got some 17,000 plus.
Zion, you want to take a bite?
No, I think it's okay, except that maybe we have to be careful and recount if it's possible.
Okay.
So that we set matters right.
Right.
Because when you have litigation surrounding results, I normally don't feel comfortable at all about it.
Okay. Yeah. Steve?
But for me, it's it looks like an "I told you so" situation where so he won. The independent candidate, who is the incumbent, is incredible. I mean, he's actually lucky to win and go back. It just means that his support base didn't let him down.
Right.
Otherwise, this would have meant that if he lost, he would have been out as an independent candidate and also sacked from the party. But there is a precedence. Jose Usu's situation in Bekwai came strongly, except that the Bekwai candidate couldn't win, really. So the dynamics is going to be that he certainly is going to sit with the majority in parliament, but it will take 4 years for him to regularize his membership and then be part of the MPP again and go for another primary.
Okay.
Imagine he loses again and he's sacked from the party again. Then he goes independent. But
let me just interject here and announce that we have visuals. Remember earlier on we had
from
Tema. Yes, that Ghana Must Go Bag incident where an EC official is said to have carried to his home a Ghana Must Go bag full of pink sheets and returned them this morning. And obviously the NDC people there did not take kindly to that, and so they are objecting to a number of processes. That we do have the pictures from that incident, and so we'll like to take them right now.
APC dial.
As earlier on when we spoke to our correspondent Josephine Ejay in Tema East, she was at the collation center and indicated that there had been an incident, and that is what we have seen currently, and that involved an EC official who had brought to the collation center pink sheets, a bag full of pink sheets. She described the bag as being a Ghana Must Go bag, and he had brought that to the collation center, and that had been met with a lot of agitation from the NDC party agents there, and it had to take the intervention of the security personnel to bring calm to that scene or that area. And so clearly the visuals have been, I think they're frozen for now, but we earlier on were seeing the live or the pictures actually panning out as they happened. And so that is the report, pictures following the report from Tema East by our Tema East correspondent, Josephine Ejay. So, some heckling going on there when the EC official brought in the Ghana Must Go bag. We see the police and the military there trying to restore some calm. But she did indicate that they had managed to restore calm. So at least that is a good one. We will definitely be touching base with Josephine Ejay as we go along with our coverage to see how things have gone on there. Right.
Well, I mean, it's quite unfortunate, and like Mr. said, we can't stop saying it, that when we set rules, we must obey the rules and play by the rules. I mean, whoever that person was, he's been trained to know the protocol for moving electoral materials from one point to the other. And you can't move it without the inclusion of the candidate or the assigns. It's never done. You can't keep it in your home. You lodge it at the police station or the district electoral office. It must be under the cover of the security of the state provided. So I mean, clearly he had breached it. And
totally.
I mean, even though I think that some of the party people had reacted, in a certain way that they shouldn't have.
It's justified.
Let's look at that. But we need to say big thank you to the security for maintaining peace there. It could have gotten out of there.
Yeah,
it could. Yeah. But what is the likelihood of? Is there any likelihood that anyone could sneak in foreign pink sheets that do not have the serial numbers to be tabulated? So I think that if the right things are done, it's wrong for the officer to have moved it the way he did. But if they are to examine the pink sheets to be sure they are part of the original, it shouldn't be difficult.
Well, the issue about serial numbers and pink sheets, we do know the issues from 2012, and you and I were not there where it came from. I mean, we spent 8 months of our lives and sitting and watching and checking pink sheets and 270 and 270. It's too much work for us. I think that prevention is better than
definitely.
Once we set the rules, we obey it no matter who you are.
Definitely.
If the Electoral Commission in Accra is obeying it, how dare you? Who was an ad hoc staff, how dare you not obey it?
Yeah. And these are charged moments, very volatile.
There's so many uncertainties.
Election results, and they are so sensitive. These are sensitive materials, and you have to handle them with care.
Yeah.
you need to tell people that this is what I'm going to do. The police will have to be involved, like you rightly said. And the best place would have been to keep it at the police station.
That's right.
Exactly. You don't
On the local
unilaterally
you go
take that
sleep.
decision.
The following
and then-
morning, you go with the agents, whatever, and you go and bring it back. You see, he may not have done anything,
Sure.
but the method was wrong.
It's just not. It's not good.
The heightened suspicion.
Exactly.
Itself. They could ask for a recount and we could be here for 2 days waiting for Semayis to finish. Anyway, so we're talking about Fomena earlier. Let's take a look at Fomena. Andrew Amwaku Esiama got 14,823, 72.70%. Then William J. Mensah of the NDC got 4,180. This was in 2016. Maybe we backtrack a big start from the year 2000 and see what the figures look like. Christian Free Fact, 9,389 for the NPP, 71.65%. The NDC's William Donko got 2,000 place for the NPP 21.27. If we fast forward to 2004, yeah, what changes? Well, a bit of the votes come to add on to what the NDC had. Same candidate, by the way, Akwesi Free Fact. He got 8,207, 52.85. John Toku got 2,009 votes, 12.94%. The rest, well, interestingly, the independent candidate at the time, George Ketieku, got 4,096. So he was the second person in line if he had gone on. And suspicion is that he may have broken away from the NDC and to contest in that election. There's another independent candidate, Ampoma Thomas, but he got only 70 votes. 2008, what do we get? Honorable N. Bonsra got 11,787, and that was 70.79. Samuel Pinkra, 3,430, and well, it continues like that. 2012, what does it look like? Okay, and it's still the NPP in the lead all through.
Yep.
So I'm quite surprised that the independent candidate got. Of course, the independent candidate
Was
used to be with the NDC. He's still blue-blooded. He's still blue-blooded.
I'm sure one day he might even want to come back.
Definitely.
Yes.
He might decide to
I
come
would
back.
want to film that encounter with the speaker where he goes to shake his hand.
That
and
is
say,
if he's
I am-
maintained as speaker.
I am back. And I told you I'll be back.
Yeah.
And I'm back.
So yeah, all right. But this is your election command center has extensive coverage of the 2020 elections. We're live also on 3FM 92.7, and we'll be here until we get you all the results. The results are coming in thick and fast. Shortly, we'll try to cross over to our data center where we're collating region by region, bit by bit. Every pen sheet comes through our end as well, and we're putting the figures together like we've done for you, and we will take you through the data center shortly. And so you see the hardworking. There you have it on the screens. The young, enthusiastic, bold, focused, dynamic individuals that we put together. And they're using every bit of technology that they can find. The computers are there, the phones are there. It's ringing. The analysis are going on. They're working closely with a bunch of expert statisticians who are putting together the figures to be able to project and tell you where we're going with all of this. And they've been at this. They've been sitting there since Sunday evening and working round the clock. We're Tuesday now. We're Tuesday.
I mean, I've lost track. Seriously, right?
Yes, and they've been working
It's
at
Tuesday.
it.
Yes,
As soon as
Tuesday
the
the 8th.
results drop, they pick it up and they will channel it through here and you get it. That's the hardworking team then. Beyond them, there's also those who do the infographics and put pictures to it, so you get to enjoy the short takes that come in. They cut it, trim it nicely, and amplify the sound and make it look clean and good for your consumption on television and on radio as well. So this is your election command center. That's just one part of our whole enterprise at the West Wing. The West Wing also has Ballot 360, where we validate and fact check things that come in. So if you heard something somewhere, you saw something on the grapevine, on social media, Ballot 360 is where we draw the fine line between facts, the truth, and what is rumor and what's not accurate. And just like we told you, you may have seen somewhere that you've been told that Bernard Okoboy of Lejokuku had won the election by some 2,000 votes. A man on the ground and through Ballot 360 says the results have yet not been declared. So discard that false information. They're still counting, and you can only get this on Election Command Center. Then from Ballot 360, we go next to our other studio, 3 studios at the West Wing, where we have the ground zero and where we have the one-on-one conversation. So it's a packed thing, and we will share all with you here on your Election Command Center, Steve.
Right. So we're still doing this all the way till we have a new president, 275 members. You can see we have the data coming in and show you the results that are at hand and certified, so that what we're doing, as you can watch on our screens, the various results that are coming in, is an indication of where we are in the coverage right now. You can still follow us on all our social media pages and get interactive with us with a hashtag Election Command Center. So far, we've had some results coming in. From now we've spoken about Ododo coming in, also about 254 certified results in so far. 4 more polling stations to go for the full figures to be confirmed. And we've had Fomina, which incredibly has swung to the side of the incumbent, who went into the contest as an independent candidate after losing the primaries for his party. A lot is happening, and as you know from all the data analysis we've done over the past periods before the elections and now in the elections, the Ashanti region is the place to keep an eye on. The indications and the data suggest that when the MPP for any election year wins over 75% is predictive of the chances of winning the national trend. So far, both the NDC and NPP have made claims to taking the lead and winning, but we're sticking to the certified results that are coming in from the Electoral Commission to give you a firm confirmation of where the swing is actually going. So every result, we are putting out all those certified. We're tagging them provisional until the Electoral Commission announces the final results. Johnny, you have anything that
absolutely? Well, coming in fresh information. We showed you the jubilation happening at the Collation Center at Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency, where Portia Gabo is. But at this point, we have fresh information to suggest that Lydia Al Hassan has been certified as the winner of that fierce contest at the Ayawaso West Wuogon. She came on head on with John Dumelo of the NDC. There's also one other engineer that came on and one lady from the PNC. She says that she dedicates her victory to the memory of her late husband, who was MP until his sad demise. And also she has promised to work closely with John Dumelo to bring development to the people of Ayawaso West Wuogon. So there you have it in your shot. You're singing songs of jubilation. Well, you can't find the harmony in the voices though, but it's still jubilation, by the way. They're excited. Yeah, it's not a choir. It's party people.
So you mean they don't particularly have a good voice?
I didn't say that.
Yeah, but that's it.
But they have good votes. They have good votes.
That's what matters.
So that's most important. Yeah. So if you're looking for a choir, look for harmonious choral or vocal lessons. You won't find them. Yeah, you won't find them there. But that's the excitement. And I love what John Dumelo and Lydia Al Hassan did in the run-up to the big election. Apart from that, unfortunate thing that happened at the constituency debate where they went at each other. Of course, the temperature was hard at the time, but they, had gone on a walk together. I've seen John Dumelo
gone into the water together,
and all of that. That kind of, excitement was there. And I always say it's not a fight; it's a contest of ideas. So I say mine, you say yours. Let the electorate decide who gets to win.
Yes, that's what it is.
So I see at your back the Fomina. We still are seeing the real breakdown of the Fomina figures as they come in, right? We can see the NDC candidate and the MPP candidate and the GUM candidate,
Right.
and how much they're scoring.
We're still tabulating, but I put the GUM up there because GUM has become the third force as it appears has become the third force. I'm surprised though that I don't see the PPP, because Bridget Jubenuku had been vice presidential candidate for Dr. Parkway Sindom of the PPP. So one would have expected that she would show.
Good afternoon, everyone. With apologies for our getting started late and gratitude for the fact that you're still in your seats. I'm Glenn Lowry, Merton Stoltz Professor of the Social Sciences here at Brown and Professor of Economics and a Faculty Fellow at the Watson Institute. And I welcome you to this first of the year of Watson's Distinguished Lecture Series. Before I say anything further, I'm obliged to read the following announcement. In the event of a fire alarm, please proceed calmly to a nearby exit. Leave the building and move away from the doorway. Please note the location of nearby exits. The closest exit may not be where you entered. Be aware that the way you entered may not be the most direct way out. Sitting or standing in the aisles and doorways is not permitted. Smoking is not allowed inside any university building. Please turn off or silence all pagers and cell phones. That having been said, let's get down to business. It is my pleasure to welcome you all for, as I say, this year's inaugural lecture in the Watson Institute's Distinguished Lecture Series. It's going to be delivered by Wole Soyinka under the title, Hatched from the Egg of Impunity, a Fowl Called Boko Haram. In addition to the Watson Institute, I wish to acknowledge the financial support for this distinguished lecture from a number of other units on campus: the Kogut Center for the Humanities, the Center for Study of Slavery and Justice, Center for the Study of Race and Ethnicity, Office of the President of the University, Office of Global Engagement, the Departments of Africana Studies, Anthropology, English, Modern Culture and Media, and Economics. Akinwande Oluwole Soyinka was born in 1934 in Abeokuta, near Ibadan in Western Nigeria. He's a graduate of Government College at Ibadan, and in 1954, he traveled to England to continue his studies at the University of Leeds. He's been a dramaturgist at the Royal Court Theatre in London and has taught drama and literature at various universities in Nigeria, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Throughout his career as a dramatist, he has been an innovator, founding theater groups and even producing and acting in his own plays. Wole Soyinka is a writer of many parts. Over the course of a long, productive career, he has distinguished himself not only as a playwright, but also as a poet, novelist, memoirist, journalist, and cultural critic. He is, simply put, one of the leading men of letters living among us today. Whatever the genre, his writings have invariably reflected a broad and deep knowledge of the classical and modern works of European literary high culture, while at the same time remaining rooted in the mythology of his Yoruba origins. His plays reflect traditions of popular African theater with their combination of dance, music, and action. There's more here, but I want to limit some of what I say by not enumerating the many published works which I have listed in paragraph 4 of my prepared remarks. Let me just note that they are many and varied. In recognition of his literary accomplishments, Wole Soyinka was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature by the Swedish Royal Academy in 1986. But Wole Soyinka is a good deal more than a great and prolific writer. During the Civil War in Nigeria, he was so bold as to appeal in an article for ceasefire. For this, he was arrested in 1967, accused of a treasonous act, conspiring with the Biafra rebels, and was held as a political prisoner for 22 months. Moreover, he has twice been forced into exile from his home country in order to preserve his liberty and his life. Acting with courage, wisdom, and integrity, Wole Soyinka has, for the past half century, been a leading voice on behalf of the global struggles. His uncompromising integrity and his wise moral compass have been a gift not only to his native Nigeria, not merely to his beloved Africa, but to the entire world. To whet your appetites for today's address, just listen to some of Soyinka's words of wisdom as reflected in these oft-repeated quotations drawn from his interviews and writings. The man dies in all who keep silent in the face of tyranny. And for me, justice is the prime condition of humanity. And one's own self-worth is tied to the worth of the community to which one belongs, which is intimately connected to humanity in general. What happens in Darfur becomes an assault on my own community and on me as an individual. That's what the human family is all about. And I don't know any other way to live but to wake up every day armed with my convictions, not yielding them to the threat of danger and to the power and force of people who might despise me. So, without further ado, it is my honor and privilege to be able to introduce Wole Soyinka today as he addresses the theme, hatched from the egg of impunity, a fowl called Boko Haram. Please join me in giving him a warm welcome.
My next to mask for my CV, can I borrow that? Thank you very much. I'm glad to be back in Browns on this grimy day. So, hatched from the egg of impunity, a fowl called Boko Haram. Now, here's a digression placed before we have even commenced. It comes in the form of a question directed at prominent sectors of the international media and even the United Nations, whose deliberations I recently watched. What's in your name? Or straight to the point, why Boko Haram? That is now the name of the Nigerian movement of religious irredentists chose for themselves. Mohammed Yusuf and his founding cohorts had settled for the grandiloquent name of Jama'atu Adlis Sunnah Leader Awati Wal Jihad, meaning people committed to the propagation of the Prophet's teachings and jihad. Even if Nigerians found themselves ill-prepared and ill-equipped to cope with this sudden and brutal affliction, they understood and held the psychological weapon of language. They even refused to concede a shortened version, let's say committed people or whatever. No, they said Boko Haram is what you are. Boko Haram is what your action dictates. Language, we have to understand, is also an instrument of war. So enter the ancillary question, when is a state? I think we could profitably take a cue from the battered humanity of Nigeria, which just simply says, do not concede a thing to the enemy of humanity. Certainly not in the common, accessible currency of language. ISIS is not a state, nor is it Islamic. Suggestly, the conferred name Boko Haram has stuck. So, alas, has the enemy. The humanity of the North has taken the brunt, but all of Nigeria is affected. The populace is still trying to puzzle out how we ever came to such a pass. Unfortunately, many people give scant attention to the intellectual antecedents, ideological antecedents, and evolving, continuing purpose of movements like Boko Haram, especially the descent of religious belief into such brutality. Many cannot even recall the pronouncement of one Sheikh Abubakar Gumi, which went straight to the heart of his Islamic renewal agenda. He said, upon stage, a Christian president for Nigeria, that'll happen over my dead body. Again, it was the same cleric and scholar who blurted out the famous words, Christianity is nothing, a declaration to which I owed the inspiration of one of my public lectures at the University of Ibadan in the late 70s, which I entitled The Credo of Nothing and the Being of Nothingness. Those who attempt to trace the antecedents of Boko Haram tend to place it at some date that shortchanges actuality, and thus they court the danger of becoming content with just a physical containment of an malaise with deep roots. I shall probably be liable on the same charge, since I have no intention of going all the way back to the beginning of the Wahhabist movement in Saudi Arabia. For our purposes, however, as these involve a colonial enclave that bears the name Nigeria, Sheikh Gumi and his statements are a good timeline as any to begin serious inquiry into the phenomenon. Gumi was, of course, a totally different breed from Yusuf or Shekau, his successor. Gumi was a relentless debater and polemicist. For someone capable of such an extreme utterance as Christianity is nothing, he could still be counted something of a progressive. For instance, he believed in female education and the promotion of their electoral rights. What matters is that this cleric created, both directly and indirectly, a sizable and committed followership. His hard, uncompromising pronouncements on national politics also affected the attitude of a number of national leaders in crucial positions, social development, foreign policy, etc., but education most especially, thus paving the way for religious indoctrination over and beyond even the reaches of the madrasas, those Islamic schools where the foot soldiers of today's Boko Haram were nurtured. Gumi casts long and wide influence, directly and covertly, over the nation's educational structures that were supposed to be national in character and presumably secular. The infiltration of Nigerian educational system also produced some of the current acknowledged godfathers of Boko Haram, even as it primed some of the future ideological propagators and actual midwives of the benighted movement. The extent of Gumi's influence in national affairs can be gauged by the following extract from a recent paper by a senator, a lawyer, at a Lagos symposium. He said, Gumi spearheaded the neo-Salafi Islamic reform for about 40 years, challenging what he believed were the Brotherhood's un-Islamic innovations, BIDA, sponsoring the upgrading of modern Islamic education and insisting on the need to fully implement Sharia law at all levels in Nigeria. Gumi's exposure to the neo-Salafist groups like the Muslim Brotherhood of Egypt had an impact on him. He was a strong advocate for increasing Muslim women across access to education and their participation, as I said earlier, in electoral politics. He also translated the Quran into Hausa. Sheikh Gumi was an equally effective organizer. From his own biography, Where I Stand, comes the following extract, a glimpse into his post-independence activities and a revelation of his powers of mobilization and influence at the very pinnacle of Nigeria's policymakers and executors. Note that the Sardauna, who's mentioned in this extract I'm about to read, was the same Sardauna of Sokoto, who was the first premier of the northern region of Nigeria, which was amalgamated with the south in 1914. And the Sardauna also claimed direct descent from the noted jihadist Uthman Danfodio. Danfodio was also a remarkable figure in Nigerian history, who had once sworn to dip the Quran into the Atlantic, that is, march all the way down south of present-day Nigeria, Islamizing the nation all the way, and by force of arms. However, from Gumi's biography, quote, I discussed it with the Sardauna, that is his project, and accepted that there was the need for a more formal organization to handle the project. This is when we decided to sound out the opinion of some Muslims living in Kaduna. Eventually, the meeting prepared the brief agenda. Present at that first meeting, it's early in the 60s into independence, were the Premier, Sardauna of Sokoto, Ali Akilu, Ahmed Tali, Ahmed Joda, Armita Katsina, and many others, including virtually all the Muslim permanent secretaries in the government. It was strictly voluntary, though, and a few did actually withdraw from the group later. We discussed at length the problem of teaching converts in this country and those who wanted to learn about Islam, because there were no qualified teachers or any serious organization they could turn to for help. Finally, we all agreed to set up an association to render this type of assistance. Malam Abu Bakr Imam suggested that it should also include our objective, so it was better to call it Jama'atu Nasril Islam, to which we all agreed. Now, this was the level of ideological pedigree to which Muhammad Yusuf and his gang aspired. However, the people let the latter understand that just as a fowl may be feathered, it is not the same as a contemplative owl. The name Boko Haram has stuck, so alas, have they. The irony is that leaders among these latter progeny were products of the very system that they were indoctrinated to despise, in the North most conspicuously. And so they came to view the state as an enemy of Islam that must be destroyed. Much of the so-called radicalization of such Muslim leaders took place within the universities, just as has been uncovered in instances among universities in the very heart of countries like Britain. There's nothing surreptitious about this movement, nothing about it. It was a doctrine, the repudiation of the state and of society that stood at the foundation of the Nigerian Wahhabist movement, the movement we began in Saudi Arabia. It was propagated within and under the protection, very often, of the university system itself. Its periodic manifestations are captured in the reports, several reports that took place in Nigeria, such as the one that sat after some student-engendered riots in the city of Kano. An extract from that report paints the picture and delivers its intrinsic warning, alas, only partially heeded. I quote, on the 29th September 1980, MSS, that's the Muslim Student Society which emerged from this movement, in ABU, that's the Ahmadu Bello University, destroyed many alcoholic drinks at a kiosk on the campus. The most militant of the MSS members would appear to be its deputy chairman, named Ibrahim El Zakzaki, who was expelled from the ABU Zaria on the 14th December 1979, for his role in fomenting MSS unrest on the campus. El-Zakzaky was the brain behind a demonstration in Zaria for MSS members on 4th May 1980, when 10 busloads of the members drove around the city with the following inscriptions on the buses: "Down with the Nigerian Constitution, Islam only." On 20th August 1980, El-Zakzaky was reported to be circulating in the northern states with pamphlets captioned "Badakawa Ga Muslimi Nigeria." It means calling on Muslims in Nigeria, in which he condemned the Nigerian constitution for being anti-Islamic, called for an Islamic revolution, and urged Islamic students to rise against the federal government. He also demanded recognition of the Sharia law. El-Zakzaky is reported to have visited on several occasions, and he recently returned from Iran, where he was said to have received training in planning and executing student unrest. Now, these are the early actualizing forces, the earliest organized actualizing forces of Gumi's Christianity is nothing. There were arrests, even some members of a trial, but it did not take long for El-Zakzaky and his followers to be back in circulation. We must make it clear, however, that violent though Gumi's language was, and provocative in the extreme in a multi-religious nation, both in his writings and preaching for Islamic renewal, it is not recorded anywhere that he was an advocate of actual violence against the state or against unbelievers. I'm not sufficiently knowledgeable, nor is it of any relevance to this discourse, to track the movement of the various schools of Islamic thought in contention for supremacy among themselves, especially during the immediate post-independence period. My interest has mostly lain within the phenomenon of insidious enslavement, by which I mean that compulsive temper of a part of society to soften up the rest for eventual outright subjugation, resorting where necessary to the shock tactics of unanticipated violence, confining the privilege of choice to their limited coterie to the exclusion of others, and building up a protective carapace around themselves, no matter with what material, secular, theocratic, or simply cultic, like the military or ethnic, in order to render themselves and their methods unanswerable to the rest, no matter the degree of criminality or outrage. Because renewal is a common feature of most religions, and Islam is no exception. Those who are interested in the internal schisms within Islam, however, will discover that the more pacific, non-political side of Islam, as represented by the mystic temper of Sufism, for instance, has been prominently in deadly conflict with the rest, as generally identified, let's say, with the Shiites, the Sunnis, the Wahhabis, and others. The most aggressive tend to be the most conservative, whose interpretation of renewal has always favored a return to basics, quote, or simply call it fundamentalism. The geography of catchment of this latter tendency in Nigeria appears to have centered among the Kanuri in northern Nigeria, largely through the preaching of one Sheikh Ismaila Idris bin Zakaria, a sympathizer, if not exactly a formal disciple of Sheikh Gumi. Gumi's influence was at its peak in the years that followed independence, fostered by the title of Grand Vizier of northern Nigeria. Opinion has it that this influence of his waned after that title was abolished in 1967. But by then, he had established his own followership, and his gospel had been carried into the neighboring countries, Chad, Niger, and Cameroon, wherever the Kanuri were to be found. It is generally accepted within Nigeria that Mohammed Yusuf, founder of Boko Haram, came under the influence of a Sheikh Jafar Mahmoud Adam, whose base was the Indimi Mosque, a Wahhabi stronghold. The control of mosques has proved a perennial trigger for violent internal wars within Islam, since leadership at Friday prayers signaled enormous control over the Muslim population in any area of contention. One feature was common to all: the need to engage in Islamic renewal wherever Islam spread its wings, and to engage not only in conversion, but to ensure that local impurities did not penetrate through to Islam through the cultural and religious contentions of the autochthones, or foreign intruders such as the Christians. Perhaps this explains the ferocity with which even minor differences in rituals or their omission in Islamic practice took on such alarming dimensions. Those who wish to place the internal dynamics of Islam in an easily digested capsule, especially insofar as it impacted on followers, can do worse than regard that religion as shaped, especially in its impact on overall society, shaped by a perennial tussle between the two major tendencies of the Tajdid, or renewal. For one side, it meant going back to basics of fundamentalism, conservatism, and the other, a progression that takes into account the dynamic effect of a changing world, as happened in Turkey. Sheikh Gumi's international recognition in 1987 as laureate of King Faisal's foundation belonged to the former category of Islamic renewal, the conservative tendency, with, of course, some minor attributions. Mohammed Yusuf's eventual rupture with his mentor, Sheikh Jafar, was based on Yusuf's dissatisfaction with the tempo and limitations of Jafar's approach to this mission of conservative, quote-unquote, renewal. For Yusuf, renewal implied the necessity of overturning the state completely and subjecting its governance to his brand of Islam in all ramifications. For that purpose, the instrumentality of violence, including the killing of unbelievers, that narrow interpretation of a certain section of the Quran, were paramount. It was a divinely sanctioned imperative. And he began to forge local alliances with political figures for that single-minded cause, turning the nation into an Islamic state that was governed by the laws of the Sharia. Who sought out whom, offering his services, we do not know exactly. And let me mention that the following account is vigorously denied by the survivor of that unholy alliance, even as recently as 2 weeks ago, when voices, including myself, joined in exposing such individuals, especially one in particular, an ex-governor, and demanding his arrest and trial. He denies the charges. The principal accused is one Ali Modu Sharif, the former governor of Borno State, who was seeking re-election in the 2007 governorship elections. He came together with Yusuf Mohammed, who had by then begun to earn a reputation for violence, to launch a program of intimidation and religion-motivated harassment. Yusuf's mentor, I mentioned earlier, Jafar, the preacher at Indimi Mosque, tried to rein him in, to get him to sever his involvement in partisan politics. He failed, and the two parted company. In the end, Jafar also paid with his life, assassinated in his mosque, as he prepared to denounce Yusuf during his Friday sermons. It was too late. Creating a state within the state had already become an obsession with Yusuf as he moved to attack and take over police stations, and also other state institutions. Within civic society, attacks on non-Islamic institutions had commenced, especially the far-flung churches. Boko Haram began to live up to its designation. Western education is anathema, the book is profanity. The targeting of learning institutions became more and more ruthless and systematic. First, it was tertiary institutions like universities and colleges. Christian chapels in universities were attacked during service, then threats.
As the member of parliament, I have at least inculcated in my supporters to ensure that the process is as peaceful.
The book is
that sense of patronage should be there. The reward system must come to them. So not necessarily about putting your best foot forward. They think that there's a queue, it's gotten to my turn. I cannot wait for anybody else to go. Even if it serves the larger interest of the party, I must go. And that's where political funding comes in. Because if I'm rich in a constituency and I fund your campaign or I fund a party with the hope of becoming a member of parliament at some point, and it gets to the point where I want to go and contest, and you tell me there's a person with a PhD who has come, who can serve our interests better, represent us better in parliament, I would not agree. So that's the kind of thing that we keep seeing around. And the parties never do learn.
Yes,
they never do learn because look at what we're showing you from Clottey College constituency, for example. I mean, I experienced Joshua Roxon, and I knew there was no way he was going to get anything because he had said, like we're hearing from others, that he was going to do a high-rise, 3 flats, high-rise buildings for the constituents who didn't have any place to sleep. Then we put a question to him, Alfred and I, at the Osumo, how much is it going to cost? He said 20 million US euros.
How are you going to fund it?
Whoever put that together, I mean, before Shatabangu, there was Joshua Roxon. So that was it. I knew he was not going to get anything there. But clearly, look at what Valentino got. Look at what Philip Addison got. Put it together, and clearly the NDC wouldn't have had a chance. If we backtrack to 2012, clearly you can tell that the NDC had it. But also, the NDC, Ms. Mesashite, was not too happy because he thought that, well, the dynamics of, Daleto being the daughter of the founder had been used against him in trying to get it, even though the margin that he got was not so wide. And that same margin repeated itself in 2016. So it's close. And particularly for this year's election, Mr. Deborah, who is an indigenous of the place, keeps saying NLA Shia Sadi, which means that this is a local matter. So to play a bit of a tribal card in there. Will it wash? Will it not wash? We'll wait
to find out.
Yes, I mean, talking about indigenous, Esenato was born, grew up in the constituency as well. So although by her parental heritage, she's more Ashanti than ever, she has lived in that community for a while and has drawn the support base of her father, sincerely, because I grew up in the constituency also. And I know how the constituents held Rawlings in high esteem. I mean, having lived in the castle and going to school in nearby communities, she's more like a people's person also, and is on the ground. So I'm looking up strongly to what the outcome of the 2020 results will be for Clottey College, to see whether Esenato has a higher chance of maintaining, retaining her position, or it will exchange hands.
But then, Steve, again, even though Dr. Zaneto Ajima-Rawlings had grown up in the area, everybody knew them, they had lived at the castle, they are rich residents. We also do know that up until recently, the settlements around the area, Adabraka, of course, which was the most populous in that constituency, comes in. And then there is the Osu area, township. Yes, that two blocks of the Osu area. One that shows you the Oxford streets, the niceties, the high-rise buildings, the fries and the ice creams. It shows you those ones. Then you go to the proper Osu Township,
Otubulungu,
Mami, where
Asante, and
going to
Anoho, and those
night
areas.
markets,
Yes.
get a cake and pop,
Yeah.
you know, you're going through those corners.
Yeah, man.
And you find the people on the beaches, and there seems to be some disconnect in terms of what do you call it, development.
Sure.
I mean, Henry Herbert Latte of the GCPP has his home there. It's a white tower, it's a citadel on its own. But right where it is, you can tell the disconnect.
Right.
So Zaneto grew up in the constituency, but the people, up until she stepped out and started taking on traits like her father to step into the gutter, to meet the June 3 disaster folks and to talk to them, develop an app and gather women and children, the people saw her to be a bourgeois
Sure.
and not a proletariat. Now, Deborah
Which she is, as daughter of a president and a head of state.
well,
You know,
but she doesn't want to light it, to fall in that line. She wants her political fortunes to shine brighter than what her forebears have done. Deborah comes to the table as a man who had played at Lokoto and done Juloke police with the people. So when he talks about Shiasani, he's talking about it from that point of view. These are the two candidates that have come up. So irrespective of what policies that they are putting up to the people are now looking, who can I easily associate with? Who can I easily run to? Who is easily accessible to me? And how can I easily, rub shoulders with? That's what the electorates are looking at. They're not looking at policy printed on paper, black and white. They're not looking at that.
Which is still the same language in Legicuku, clearly. It's coming up, very, very much the same way. But again, you can't change your heritage. You can't change your heritage. And so the fact that, yes, Dr. Zanato was born to a certain kind of, family is not lost on people. And the same thing with, the gentleman seeking to contest against her. And so definitely those are some things she would need to grapple with and see how best she can deal with them in terms of strategy moving forward. And so indeed, there are some real challenges there for the good doctor to deal with. Definitely.
So, well, we're hoping. I mean, some folks, electoral watchers, had tipped her to be, if you like, a vice presidential candidate. Well, they picked her. She's about 42, so she qualifies to do it. But then the question is, will the party pick Zaneto to be, the vice presidential candidate, given the fact that there are other persons who have expressed interest in that particular, thing. So let's see how it goes.
That's a tricky one.
We're following through, but this is your election command center, live on TV3 and also live on 3FM 92.7 across platform. We are on Nia FM 95.1, Connect FM 97.1 in Takrady, Akuma FM 87.9 in the Ashanti region, Kumasi, close to the mall, and also on 3news.com and Onia TV. So you're getting every detail you need here. Once it drops, we pop it. Once it happens, we tell you about it. And we're not just telling you about it, we're showing you pictures. We're taking and giving you a cursory tour of West Wing, particularly, where we have our data center that's showing you young, enthusiastic, smart, sharp-brained, bold youngsters who are putting up the figures and making sure that our expert team of statisticians get to do the analysis and get to do the right projections for you. We're also getting you Ballot 360, where we do all the fact checking that's happening, and we also have Ground Zero that will have the one-on-one conversations with the big fishes. We have social polls that will tell you what's trending on social media. When we come in here, we have a data hub where we will be playing with the figures and juggling with it. Political statistics at its best play. We have the best in the industry, Dr. Naughty, Dr. Asante. We have a pack of statisticians as well, watching from afar, engaging the mood and measuring up the things. And then we have Decision 2020, where we are now. So 7 studios, all at it, making sure that you are getting the best of the best in the constituency. I saw Sujaman.
Yeah, I was trying to pull out some of the constituencies to watch so that we can run through them whilst we wait. I will be connecting us to the NDC party office where we're expecting a press conference currently to be held.
I hear this year the technology changed. It changed from comfortable lead to flipping.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
so the NDC will hold an emergency press briefing. We'll tell you about it shortly. Once it starts, we will let you know. We'll connect you to it. And live pictures will come on your screen right now to tell you how the NDC is prepared.
Right. So the NDC is preparing for a press briefing, and you have the shots on your screens currently, and we will be linking up definitely to get the sounds as well to know exactly what their concerns are regarding this press briefing. Obviously, I think this would be press briefing number 3 since the elections, and indeed since the coverage. So we will be bringing you all that you need to know regarding the press briefing from the NDC, which will be held at the party head office. We understand some of the NDC party faithfuls. They include Mr. Kakra Samwa, Honorable Fifi Kwete, and some bigwigs from the party. And so once we link up with them, we'll definitely see who are present. The NDC has earlier on held about 2, and I believe the last one was where they indicated that they had flipped 36 seats, and they were sure of victory. And so we'll see what they have to tell us now at their upcoming press briefing. And do note that after the press conference that the NDC held just before this one that they're about to hold, the NPP also held a press conference and put out some statements as well with a view to counter the statements that had been made by or at the press briefing organized by the NDC. We understand we'll be crossing over to the Volta region for some updates as well. So as and when we're ready, we will do the linking up to bring you up to speed.